Hello everyone, you're very welcome to this short presentation on ACCA Advanced Performance Management. As you know, this is one of the 4 option papers available to ACCA students at a strategic professional level. My name is Michael Barry. I lecture APM for the accountancyschool.ie. I deliver on both classroom and online programs. I'm going to explain to you why this paper, APM, might be the right choice for you. So without further ado, let's get started. I put a little bit of thought into this, and I said probably a good place to start would be to look at the profile of students that are actually sitting in our APM classes today. Now, under the new syllabus, we have APM. Under the old syllabus, it was referred to as Paper 5, also called Advanced Performance Management. The change from the old syllabus has not been that significant. All that the exam team have done is just moved a few topics from one section to the next. So there's no significant changes in this particular paper. So back to student profile. What you'll find is students that have gone through the ACCA study system, the old syllabus, and they were very comfortable with paper F5 on performance management, P3 on business strategy, take APM as an option. So if you're comfortable with performance management at fundamental or skills level, business strategy at professional, or strategic business leadership at strategic professional level, well then I think P5 is probably the right choice for you. Now, those students that were exempted from fundamental or skills level and fell in love, we'll say, with management accounting or performance management in their previous studies and have actually completed business strategy or strategic business leader under the new syllabus, I think it's probably the right choice for you. We do have a lot of students sitting in the classroom that are working in industry and hoping to become qualified management accountants at some stage in the future. We got a lot of analysts sitting in APM classrooms, a lot of students that are working in consultancy. While I think this is also the right choice for you. You might find this surprising, but I do come across a lot of students that either combine auditing and APM or combine tax and APM. So it's not unusual at all to find students in an APM classroom that are also taking tax or auditing as the other option paper. Now, what's involved in APM? Now, I have to say, and I'll bring this to your attention towards the end, that most of this stuff you would have actually encountered at some stage in your previous study. So you have all this knowledge picked up at fundamental level, professional level, or skills level. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying that knowledge to various scenarios. So there's very little new to students coming into APM. You would have touched on all the topics at some stage in your studies. So it's not as if you're going to be looking at material for the very, very first time. So you have the knowledge coming into the classroom. What we need to try and be able to do is apply that knowledge to scenarios. Now, the syllabus is actually broken down into 5 sections. We have strategic planning and control, the impact of risk and uncertainty on organizational performance, performance measurement systems and design, strategic performance measurement, and performance evaluation and corporate failure. Now, I want to give you an idea as to what's covered under each of the 5 sections of the APM syllabus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my course notes and take you through the table of contents quickly. Section A in the syllabus is on strategic planning and control. You will notice that a lot of the topics that are covered here are topics you would have seen at some stage in your studies. Those of you that have come from Business Strategy P3 or coming from the equivalent paper, Strategic Business Leader, would have encountered PEST, Porter's Five Forces Model, stakeholders, ethics, the rational planning model, strategic planning. In your previous studies, you would have encountered budgeting, variances, and also, of course, environmental management accounting. Now, you might be out of touch in all these areas, but what we do in the APM classrooms here is we do a quick recap on each of those areas, because some of you may have taken time out from your studies, or it might have been some time ago since you've done performance management or business strategy. Area B is on risk and uncertainty, and it doesn't matter what decision we're making today, we're always going to be faced with risk and uncertainty. We will have to recap on the various risk and uncertainty techniques that you would have encountered in your previous studies. Part C is on performance measurement systems and design. What we're looking at here is introducing new systems, new reporting systems into a company. And what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to look at a potential system, evaluate that system. What are the good things? What are the bad things about that system? What would be your recommendation? Now, there are particular areas here that are very, very important. Things like big data. And I know big data is covered in other papers, but it is a very, very important area in APM. Integrated reporting, of course, features right across the entire strategic professional level. And we're likely to see a lot more of that coming into APM going forward. Strategic performance measurement then would be a heavy section on the syllabus. Once again, there's nothing new there. Divisional performance, transfer pricing, the use of non-financial performance indicators. You'll be going into all the Japanese business techniques, things like just-in-time, total quality management, Kaizen costing, target costing. Now, there are one or two new techniques there that you wouldn't have encountered before. Things like Six Sigma, for example, that there would be an important technique at APM level. Now, look, in relation to this paper, it is an integrated paper. And what you'll find in, no matter if it's a case study question or a section B question, the requirements will draw knowledge from many different areas of the syllabus. So it is an integrated paper. This idea of getting a standalone question on a particular area is absolutely out. So back to Six Sigma again. I mean, it's highly unlikely you're going to get a full question on Six Sigma going forward. It's likely to be integrated with another area of the syllabus. Human resource management issues, reward systems are also covered. Reward systems are very, very important in APM, and we need to make sure that whatever reward systems we are designing, that those reward systems will enable us to achieve goal congruence. Quite often in the APM scenarios, you do have reward systems that do result in dysfunctional behavior. Now, Part E, the final area of the syllabus, is performance evaluation and corporate failure. Once again, a lot of topics here you would have encountered in your previous studies, things like the balanced scorecard, Fitzgerald and Moon's building blocks, activity-based costing, corporate failure. I think we all know what corporate failure is about, but we'll take it a little bit further and we'll introduce models there that can actually be used to predict corporate failure. Now, once again, most of this stuff you would have actually touched on in your previous studies. There is some new stuff there, but it's not that much at all. And and it's quite these new areas that you're going to be introduced to are very easy to actually grasp. Once again, the paper, it's an integrated paper. It's not the type of paper where you're going to start regurgitating everything you know about a particular topic. It's all about how you actually apply this to the scenarios that are in front of you. You will notice that in APM you will be given present value and unity tables. So back to section or area C or D of the syllabus, strategic performance measurement, we will have to actually revise over net present value, IRR, the modified internal rate of return that you would have encountered in your previous studies. So that's why we need those present value tables, those annuity tables. So I think that gives you a good idea as to what areas are actually covered in APM. And as I said to you already, most of this stuff you would have touched on at some stage in your previous studies. We will have an opportunity to recap on everything. I assume, of course, that students are coming from a zero knowledge background. I think it's very, very important that I do that and gradually, of course, bring you up to the level, the standard that is required by the APM exam team. Now, if I could maybe go back to my slides again and just talk to you about the exam structure and the slight change in the structure under the new syllabus. It's still a 3-hour, 15-minute exam. It's still broken down into two sections. Section A, you have the case study question. Now, and section B, then you have the shorter questions, the 25-mark questions. Now, there's no change in section A. You still have the 50-mark case study. However, there's a change in section B. Instead of having a choice now in section B, there are only 2 questions in section B, and they are compulsory questions. Now back to section A, and what I like about the new syllabus is that the exam team have identified that the case study question will draw much from syllabus areas A, C, and D. And what we've also been told as well is that one of those compulsory questions in section B will actually be drawn from one syllabus area, and that is syllabus area E. So, changes to the structure, all right, everything is compulsory now, but at least we have an idea as to what areas the case study is going to come from, and one of the areas in which one of those section B compulsory questions is actually going to come from. My advice in relation to tackling a paper like this, I generally advise my students that maybe to start on section B, do one question from section B, then move on to section A and finish up on your second section B question. Now, the reason why I say that is these case study questions that are given to you, there is a substantial amount of data and information given to students, and it does take that little bit of time to actually digest the data and information. And I find that if you jump straight into the case study question, you may not be able to maximize your marks. I do feel that you need that little bit extra time to be able to make sure that you're nailing as many marks as you possibly can in that case study. I'll show you what an exam paper looks like in a few moments. Now look, that strategy works very well for a lot of APM students, and you might consider adopting that particular strategy as well. So B, A, and B. Now, while we're on the exam structure, let me give you an idea as to what an exam paper actually looks like. I'm taking the September-December 2017 P5 paper. It was called P5 in the old syllabus. Incidentally, the old syllabus also referred to the paper as Advanced Performance Management. So you have section A there, which is the case study question. And you can see that there is a scenario there, and you have multiple requirements. And attached to the scenario, then you have appendices. Now, that's the problem we have with APM, is that you could actually be given 4 or 5 appendices. These appendices sometimes contain more data information than the actual scenario itself. So it's quite a lot of data and information to actually digest. And that's why I feel that you do need that little bit extra time to actually think about how you're going to respond to the requirements that are in front of you. And just to give you an idea as to what can come up in case study format, what you were given in Appendix 1 here was the actual report. And this particular report that we're looking at here is a report actually produced for the board. And what you have to do is you actually have to evaluate that report and look at what the good things are about it, what the bad things are about that report, how can you improve on that report as well. So that's what part 1 was all about, evaluating the dashboard. What are the pros and cons there of the information that's given? And there's a good balance of information given here. You have a lot of financials, a lot of non-financials there to actually comment on. This was the only time integrated reporting was actually examined. And requirement 2, you're looking at the role of the management accountant in providing information for integrated reporting. Requirement 3 was TQM, target costing, and you know, there are some calculations involved in this paper. So you know, a lot of students coming into APM are under the impression that it's mainly a theoretical based paper. Yes, most of the marks will be going for theory, but there will be an opportunity to do calculations in this exam. I would say that you're looking at probably 15 to 20% of the marks in an APM paper today going for numerical work. Now, the comments regarding your numerical work would be very important, and high value marks are going for comments relating to your numerical work. So it's not a number crunching paper at all. It's I always say to students, think of APM as a theory-based paper, but you will have an opportunity to perform some numerics. And requirement 4 there, once again, you're going back to TQM and you're looking at quality-related costs, categorizing quality-related costs. There's some calculations involved there as well. And professional marks have been 4 in the past, and they will continue at 4 going forward. So question 1 is always a report, so we need to make sure that we have everything done in the correct format, that we have the details, we have an introduction, a main part, and also a conclusion as well. Even though you may not be asked for a conclusion, and you can see there in this case study question, you're not asked for a conclusion. Credit will be given for any candidates that incorporate a conclusion into their report. Now, what you'll also find as well is the requirements in APM are actually linked to appendices. So, for example, what you have there is requirement 3 would be linked to appendix 2, and of course requirement 4 is also linked to appendix 2. So what you'll find is that you can look at these appendices in isolation. Now, it's probably not the best example to actually use here, but if you look at the past papers in APM, very often you have appendix 1 relating to requirement 1, appendix 3 relating to requirement 3, appendix 5 relating to requirement 5. So I have seen 5, 6 requirements there. I have seen APM papers with 5 appendices. They haven't actually gone beyond 5, and I don't expect them to go beyond 5. Now you're into section B then. Now, this is the old syllabus, the hybrid paper, September, December 17, and there are 3 questions in section B. Remember, you have 2 compulsory questions under the new syllabus. Now, obviously the questions are much shorter, but there's also appendices attached to these shorter questions. Question 2 there was all about performance measures, the return on capital employed, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, which is a very popular metric. You're looking at requirement B, focusing on benchmarking there. You're not physically engaging in benchmarking. What you're doing here is just simply identifying what problems are likely to be encountered with benchmarking. Now you'll find in APM that the answer is actually in the scenario. So the skill required in APM is, can you identify what you need to actually take from the scenario and integrate into your response. Question 3 was on non-financial performance indicators and the public sector. The public sector is also example in APM. This particular question focused on value for money, the 3 E's, economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. And once again, you have an appendix there to that question. And the final question there in that section was on risk and uncertainty. It also touched on pest analysis, which you would have encountered in your P3 studies, business strategy, or the new subject, strategic business leader. And once again, there's an appendix there to work with as well. In fact, risk and uncertainty techniques were required to deal with that particular problem. You might remember from your previous studies techniques like the maxi-max decision-making rule, the mini-max, the maxi-min. So all these techniques have to be revisited at APM. And risk and uncertainty is a topic that I don't think the examiner can ignore when setting an APM paper today, because it doesn't matter what scenario is actually in front of you. There's likely to be risk and uncertainty. So that's why it's a topic that cannot actually be avoided. I could see that topic coming in, anywhere into an APM question. The good thing about risk and uncertainty, it's a short topic in APM, and it doesn't take that long to remind ourselves about what we covered in our previous studies. The course notes that I use in class have been specifically written for APM students. In fact, I had to go back in June 2018 to revisit my APM course notes from the old syllabus and make the necessary changes. Now, as I said, the syllabus, the new syllabus, is not significantly different to the old syllabus. There has been some movement in topics, and the other thing is that any past papers from the equivalent paper in the old syllabus, P5, would be very much relevant to preparation for your APM exam. Now, just to maybe finish up by explaining to you, how you go about passing this particular exam. And my final slide there is, first of all, you need the knowledge. Now, look, you could be looking at maybe target costing, total quality management. You have to know something about these techniques, these philosophies. But regurgitating all these topics is only going to get you up to 30% of the marks. What you have to be able to do is apply these topics and apply them to the scenario that's actually in front of you. So you have to tailor your response to what's in front of you. So you're looking at application of that knowledge. You're also looking at a high-level verb, evaluation, also being used as well. So for example, you could be looking at a company introducing a new information system, and what you have to do is evaluate that system. Or you could be looking at a company introducing a new report, a new performance matrix. So it could be anything, and you are required to evaluate. Evaluate there, look at the pros, look at the cons, and it's not a question of just simply reproducing the advantages and disadvantages. You need to actually link it to the scenario that's in front of you. Now, examiners or markers are given specific instructions that when it comes to application, evaluation, that students have to link it to the scenario. If you're going off evaluating without actually linking it to the what's in front of you, you're not going to pass this exam. And I don't care if it's a section A question or a section B question, you have to link your responses to your scenarios. Now, the beauty of this exam paper is most of the time the answer is in the scenario. And what you need to do is you need to develop your skills on the program to be able to extract the relevant points from a scenario and integrate it into your response. Most students that I've had down through the years that have taken APM as an option paper had no regret. And in fact, most students find it a very, very interesting subject. And I do think that if you have an interest in business strategy, an interest in performance management, I do think that this is the right paper for you. Even if you were exempted from those subject areas, but have taken a liking to them in your previous studies, go for it. And any analysts out there, anybody working in industry, involved in consultancy, once again, I think this is the right paper for you as well. I'd like to wish you all the best with your ACCA studies, and I look forward to meeting those of you who decide to take APM as an option paper.